then some data structures. So just lists and dictionaries is all we're going to be going over. So let's get right to it. Introduction to Python. Actually, oh, Natalia wants to be me. That's cool. So before I move on to the next slide, let's talk about what Python is. Does anyone here know what Python is? Please unmute yourselves if you already know what Python is and give a definition of how you interpret the language.
The programming language.
And welcome, Natalia. I don't think we introduced Natalia. Natalia, do you want to introduce yourself?
Can you repeat that?
Do you want to introduce yourself? We introduced everyone.
I'm sure. Hello, everybody. I'm Natalia, and I'm the program manager here at DSC. I'm a sophomore, and I'm a cybersecurity major. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for being here. And thank you, John, for giving the workshop.
Yeah. It's not really a workshop, it's a discussion. So
yes,
I did not prepare these. Yeah. So who else wants to give a crack at it? What is Python? Carla.
It's a dynamic programming language that's very similar to English.
Dynamic programming language. Okay. Dynamic programming is actually something that Python can do, but it's similar. It's a programming language. That's what it is. So you're partially correct. It can do dynamic programming, and in fact, dynamic programming is an algorithm technique rather than like an actual like language, if that makes sense.
But the part about it being very close to English, that's very true. And actually, that's why a lot of people like learning Python first. You know, it's very, very nice syntax, no, semicolons and complicated. So, yeah.
Actually, Gio is right. So it is dynamic, Carla. It's dynamically typed. Yeah. Sorry, I thought you meant like DP. Yeah, shame me, guys. Yeah. Yeah, it is a dynamically typed language. You don't have. It's not like Java where you have to like specify every single type. It infers the type, and we can see once we get started. Anyone else want to take a crack at what Python is? Clement, I see you're unmuted.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I would add, like in addition to that, is just to mention that it's like a high level programming language, which means like a lot of the work is like already done for you with the language. There's like a lot of like things, like functions and stuff already offered to you that like that aren't provided in like a lot of other languages, which is really convenient.
Yeah, it's very convenient, to be honest. All right, I'll give my definition before we hop into Lazaro's definition. My definition is Python is an inferior language to C++. I'm joking.
Stop the cap.
Lies.
No, but Python's a very powerful language. It's a very general language. And the reason why we're going over this today in AI dev community is because there's a lot of support and packages in Python for AI development specifically, especially if you want to get into machine learning. So what is Lazaro, the master's definition? Here we go. So all of you guys are correct. It's high level programming designed to be easy, like English, you read it. Like, so what Carla said, Python supports modules, packages, and encourages program modularity and code reuse, which is why it's used for AI. It's also used for video games, backends, web scraping, and more so data science. All right, let's go into outputs. So with Python, we can just do like a simple like print statement, like in order to test like the data we have in Python. So if you go to the notebook, if you guys are in the notebook, feel free to type in whatever you want. So Hermes, do you want to type something in? Like, actually, I'll start it off just so you guys know. We can print, let's print welcome to DSC. Oops, I cannot spell. Welcome to DSC, FIU. Yay, the greatest school in Florida. All right, and then we can like click play to compile the code. And then we'll see our output. It says, welcome to DSC FIU. And this is a data type that we call a string. And we'll go over this once we review variables. But yeah, this is this print function denoted by open parentheses, close parentheses is how we can test like our output.
Oh, by the way.
Anyways, we can also,
John, yeah. Sorry to interrupt. I don't know if, like with me, it's not live when you write. It's like, I have to keep.
Oh, it isn't?
Yeah.
It's not live.
Yeah, connect to
host, yeah. Java is better. Okay, I see it now.
Connect to host.
I think it's just like latency in the servers.
Yeah. Okay.
But, yeah.
Sorry, I have a quick question.
Anyways.
So,
yes.
Are we talking about Python 2 or 3?
We're talking about Python 3. There's different versions of Python. Python 2, I don't know why anyone uses Python 2, to be honest. Do you guys know the answer? Feel free to let me know, because I'm so curious as to why people are still writing Python 2 code. But generally, we're talking about Python 3. Python 2, you would like do something like this. Like you can like print whatever, because they can, yeah. Legacy code, people are lazy. That's why they Python 3. Anyways, we can also print out like integer types, decimal types, which are called floats. We'll get to that later, and data structures as well. So the print output is very powerful. People are so Javaing. Java is cool though. The print function also has like other parameters that you can pass into it, like the separator. You can separate two different variables with like a string. So it will just like call the join method. Is this correct, Lazaro? Does this under the hood call the, oh, Lazaro's not here. No wonder. Does this call the join method? Oh, you are here. Does it call the join method under the hood, this print statement?
Yeah, it has the default variable. You see the separator? That's how it's joining them. So the separator by default is just a space. But that's why in that example, if you put the underscore, it joins them by just using an underscore.
Yeah. All right. So there we go. The master himself has spoken. And we can test this. Feel free to test like these code snippets in the Python thing. So I see like all of you guys like already tested some stuff. So whoever wrote the greatest language, Java, truth, this is like an example of how you can pass in like a variable which we define as Java. And here you can see how it's like dynamically typed. We don't have to say this is a string. Java, this is redundant. We don't need this in Python. So it is a string. It can find that out itself, and you can just like with the comma denotation format the string to say the greatest language is Java. You could also add like the underscore instead of having it as a space. Anyways, that takes us on to strings. Hello. So you saw, I think that was Clement or Azar, one of those two that put Java is the greatest language. You saw that they were able to print this variable called truth. And as you saw, like it's dynamically typed. We don't have to like do anything. So what I'm going to do is ask one of you guys. I'm going to pick you guys randomly. I'm going to go down the line. Let me pick Gabby. Gabby's a freshman. Let's pick on the freshman. Gabby. Write any, like create a variable and print it out. It can be any variable. It can say whatever you want. It could be string, integer, or whatever. I just want to see like everyone's like on the same page. and then we can like go through this pretty fast. Yeah. So Gabby, are you there?
Yeah. Do I just do it on here?
Yeah, in the shared collab link, you can just like underneath here, or you can create a new cell by like going to plus code, and then you can type it in there.
Wait, John, do
Yes.
Jupyter Notebook shortcuts apply here? Or no?
What do you mean?
Like
Shift Enter
Yeah.
to run? Yeah, Jupyter Notebook shortcuts do apply. Yeah.
Okay, I did it.
Okay.
Nice. Let's wait for it to load. Let me reload this. All right, Luna. Best group is Luna.
And
I don't know what that is. But yeah, you can see like how in Python, this is another thing that we should go over, or we are going to go over. In Python, you can, oh, that's the K-pop group. Oh, okay, I wasn't thinking.
John?
You can add strings, and what this does is append the strings to each other. So this is very convenient. You don't have to go like, I know actually, yeah, and it's just like Python or Java and C++. If you guys are familiar, you can add two strings together and it'll concatenate them. Yeah, so that's what that is. So I feel like everyone's pretty comfortable with strings. See, we have two variables. We can even add them together. You want to say something, Hermes? Sorry.
Yeah, I just want to say, like maybe we should make sure that like everyone has access to Colab, that it's that it's working well. Because like for me it's not, but that doesn't really matter because it's whatever. But is everyone cool? Yeah. And everyone like
yeah.
It's just a little slow.
Yeah, it is a little slow. I think it's because like we're all on it, and it's cloud and it's free. We didn't pay for this, so. Azar asked an interesting question. What happens if we multiply the string? It won't work. You can't multiply a string. The reason why adding works is because when you have the plus operator between two strings, it assumes that you mean you want to concatenate them. There's no operator that's a star that combines them together. Yeah. So, but what happens if you do like hello 3? So Azar's asking that. Sorry. Azar's asking all the good questions here. What happens when we do this? It's a big brain. So with strings, you can multiply it by an integer, and what this will do is just concatenate itself like by however many times. So it's multiplying that string by the number of times you want. But you can't multiply strings with strings. That doesn't make any sense. What if we did -1? Okay. What if we subtract 1 from the string? Is that what you're saying, Gio? Feel free to unmute too.
Sorry, I was just curious, like multiplying by -1.
Oh, multiplying by -1. What happens if we do that? This work.
Like
it turns it. It's nothing. I actually didn't know it did this either. Do you guys know why? I'm asking a genuine question.
Wait, what are we asking?
If we multiply by -1, it doesn't print out anything.
Wait times 0.
That's interesting. Yeah, it doesn't print anything. So if you multiply it by a negative number, it's not going to print anything.
It's like repeating itself negative times, so that would be like
Yeah. I guess. Yeah, interesting. Python is it's a very simple language, but it has like a lot of shortcuts that sometimes don't make a lot of sense. And then we can go to string formatting. We can format either with like calling each string has like a method called format, and we can format the string given like these curly braces and pass in whatever variable we want into these curly braces. We can also format, so we can also do the same over here. And then there's another powerful tool called f strings, given in Hermes actually knows about this. What Python release was this? 3.6. Actually, it's right here. Yeah, and given him from 3.6 onwards, we can use f strings, which is very, very convenient. Just pass in like curly braces, variable names, and then it'll format your string for you. Feel free to test out in the notebook, and yeah. So we can check the type by using the type operator by casting the variable into the type function, and it will give us the type. So we see over here that it's 7's an integer, and then the string casted this into 7 as a string, and then we see that's a string.
Also,
I'm gonna like go past this. Oh yeah, what's up?
If you could go back to the f strings, something that's important to mention is like with f strings, it's similar with the format that you can put where you put curly braces, you can put different variables. Like you just saw name and then verb, and it'll call upon them, and then in your string, so you can make more dynamically, print statements that are more dynamic, and what's also important to note is that you can also do simple functions in the thing. So if for example I need that my variable in one line it multiplies a certain value by 2 and then plus 1, you can do that in the curly braces, which normally you wouldn't be able to do. It would look really weird if you would do it just with the normal. But yeah, go ahead.
Someone asked if there's a difference between single quotation marks and double quotation marks. No, there isn't a difference.
Just syntax.
It's whatever you prefer. Generally, when you're coding like a project, it's good practice to use. Like one sort of notation so it doesn't confuse people. But yeah, that's just that. I was just about to say like we can speed run this because a lot of this stuff, like you guys know, we can add two variables into another variable, print that out. Incrementing a variable we denote with plus equals. So let's say we have a variable, we'll call it I, and we'll call I 0. We can turn I or add I to itself 5, and this would turn into 5. Oops, let me print out I. And then this would return 5. And if we do this again, I plus equals, let's say we want to add 7 to it, this will print out 13. Yeah, so that's Python. That's how you increment. Very basic stuff, beginner programming. And then there's 2 different types. The decimal types in Python are actually called floats. You use floats to basically denote decimal variables. So that's what the decimal is called, is float. And then the numeric operations, you can multiply and divide between floats and integers. It doesn't really matter. But here's an interesting thing that I want to point out. Let's say we have 2 variables, I and j. Let's call j 3 and I is 5.0. Python is very smart. It uses common sense. If you multiply a float by an integer, it's just going to turn it into a float. So if we go like I times j, this is actually going to give us 15.0, which is a float type. Now, let's just say we don't want the float. We can just simply cast it. Casting just basically means convert it to the desired type we want. And there we see that it's back to an integer. We can do integer division if we don't want a float, like 16 divided by 5 will give us a float. Let's just say we just want the integer of 16 divided by 5, which is, what is 16 divided by 5? I can't math. 16 divided by 5. It is 5. Yeah. So 16 divided by 5 is like 5 point something. But if we cast it, or actually, let me just show you this way. Yeah, it's like 5.33. But if we do integer division, it will just give us 5.0. Again, it's using common sense. If we're doing operands between a float and an integer, it will just turn it into a float. We also use the modulo operator to get the remainder, 15 mod 4, which is basically saying when 4 goes into 15, however many times it reaches 15, what would be the leftover amount? So 4 goes into 15. 4 goes into 15 4 times 3 times. So because that's 12. If we add 4 to 12, we'll exceed 15. We go to 16. So the remainder would then be 3. And so that's what this modulo gives us. Yeah, it's very useful, especially for checking parities. If a number is even or odd, you just modulo whatever number you want to check the parity of by 2 in order to check if it's 1 or 0 to see if it's odd or even. Raising something to the power is also quite straightforward. We can also go like, for example, 16 to the 3rd power. We can go I. It's denoted by 2 asterisk or 2 stars. I to the j. This will give us 16 to the 3rd power, which is 4096. Yeah, that's how we can do it that way. Possible. I showed you guys how to do typecasting already, and then Boolean. Boolean is also pretty cool. Or it's like a fundamental aspect of CS, but in Python, we can just name Booleans. Let's call it T. It's denoted by a capital T, true. If we try to do it like C++ or Java with lowercase, it won't work. It won't recognize. Python's going to be like, I've never seen this man. Who are you? We have to, unfortunately, we have to use capital T in order to denote it as true. But yeah, there's that. Anyways, we can also do the same with false, capital F. That's Booleans. These are to check if values are true or false, which is useful in computer science if you want to check, if you want to like check in condition and then raise like flags like when a condition is met. So here you go. From Lazaro's slide, we see that it has to be capital T, not lowercase. We also can do comparisons. How do we do comparisons in Python? Same as any other language. We can specify I and j, 16. So we can say, is I greater than 3? What do you guys think? What does everyone think in the chat? Is I greater than 3? No.
See, I mean,
you guys are so smart. The smartest people I've ever met.
Python's wrong.
It's greater than.
Wow.
Yeah, Python's wrong. It has to be. Yeah, we can check like greater than. We also can do equal to as well, to check if it's the same. We don't do it like this because this is an assignment operator. We check equal to by doing it twice. Unlike JavaScript, we go like this, but this isn't JavaScript. 16 is not equal to 3. Interesting. We can also check, do the same for strings. Are strings equal to each other? Yeah, they are. It's very powerful. And we can negate an argument. So true negated with false. I mean, false negated with true will give us true. And if this is true and we print it out not hungry, this will give us false. So that's how we negate. We negate with the not keyword. All right, that's that. Now we got the simple stuff out the way. Let's get into really fun things. Functions. A function is like a function in math. It's basically you create like a function specified with the def argument, and you return whatever you want. For an example, I want to give some of our experienced programmers a crack at like creating like a simple little funny function. Let me call out David. David, does the Python collab workbook work for you?
Only if I refresh a lot.
Yeah, so can you try typing in the collab now? Let me see if it works. Let me know when to refresh.
Oops. I forgot that shift enter was run.
Yeah. Anyways, so David's gonna show us like a quick function. Let me know when you're done, David, and we can go like see what you wrote. I think this will be really cool. Make it anything you want, any function. But yeah, with functions, we specify it with the def keyword, and functions can return something, or it doesn't have to return something. We don't have to specify the return type of a function like we do in C++, Java, or other strictly typed languages. It just basically knows it by like whatever the function. If it's a return, if there's a return argument there, it'll return it. If it's not, it's not. So something very powerful in Python, let's say we create like a function, I'm going to call it foo. And then we can specify like statements, I equals 0,
Okay, I made
j
my function.
equals 1. All right, we'll check it out. We can say if true, I don't know why I didn't just do this. So like we'll get to conditionals, but this is just saying is true here. We'll return either 0, else return no. Now, this is horrible. Like if we did this in Java or Python, or no, Java or C++, it would throw a fit. It's like, what are you doing? You're trying to return like an integer and a string. Like, what is this? Like, bro, get me out of this game. Nah, man. In Python, this is perfectly legal. Watch this. It does it. It compiles. Wow, magic. So yeah, this is why Python is very convenient for a lot of people. All right, let's check out David's function.
Sounds like that's really like bug prone. Eh?
It is very bug prone. This is why a lot of people.
Oh, looks like it didn't show up.
Oh, it didn't show up.
Are there like patterns that you can use to avoid that, or like, because it's similar with like objects, right? You don't really know.
Okay,
what
refresh
you're working
again.
with.
Yeah. In Python, there's this assert keyword. Is it the drink one?
Yeah.
And so let me answer Gio's question real quick. In Python, there's this assert keyword. I forgot how to use it. Is it like this? Assert. We can assert like this is used for unit testing. So if something happens unexpected in Python, we can like within the function we can assert like something like that. So yeah, I guess I've seen that's how they do unit testing in Python in order to avoid bugs like that. But yeah, let's run this function. So let's see what David did. Drink. So he defined a function called drink, and within this function, it's calling this other function called ha 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 ha. Drink from the chalice, Jesus. So that's exactly what it's doing. If anyone has any questions, please unmute yourself. Be like, wait, I don't understand this. You're moving too fast. This is just a simple overview of Python and its capabilities.
what's in the chalice and who's Jesus?
Exactly. I'm trying to understand this reference too.
I have a question. So like, okay, say in drink, right? Instead of haha, what if we call drink instead? Would that just what kind of error would that cause? Any sort of error? Or what would that do to the code if you just call drink instead again?
This will cause an error. This will cause a. All right, let's say it in Lazaro. If you're here, let's say it in 3, 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1.
Maximum recursion depth.
Exactly. I was going to say Stack Overflow, but yeah, it's the same thing.
Beautiful.
Maximum recursion depth. Basically, it's going to keep calling itself and it won't stop. This is going to take up a lot of memory. And in Python, it has like a max recursion depth error, basically that detects whether or not we're doing infinite recursive calls. So yeah, that's what this drink does. It doesn't have to necessarily be infinite recursive calls. Let's say we want to call recursive. Actually, I'm not going to get into recursion. I'll lose like half of you guys if I did. But yeah, but yeah, this is going to give us an infinite recursive calling thing, which would cause us a lot of problems. Anyways. So yeah, we can create functions. Actually, wait, before we continue, David, what is this reference? Drink from the chalice, Jesus.
You don't know it? I didn't even put the whole thing
sorry.
because I thought it was too PG-13, I guess.
We're all above 13. Hopefully.
No, but sometimes the clubs, you know, they like to keep it like PG.
My mind here, I'm innocent.
Anyways.
Please, no.
Anyways, I'm gonna look up that reference on my own time. But with functions, we can do this other thing that C++ and Java can't. We can define default arguments or pass in arguments into a function. So over here, we just pass in functions with open parameter, with just basically nothing inside of it. But what if we pass in a function that takes in 2 arguments, I and j? Well, that means we would have to pass in two variables. Now these variables can be any type, but keep in mind, it's typically good for you guys to know what types of arguments that a function will take, because in Python there's no way, like the function will just accept any type and it'll give you an error regardless. So you have to do like additional error checking. But let's just say we want I to be Hermes, and let's just say we want J to be Daniela.
Is there a way to specify the type in the header?
There is, but there's versions of Python. I'm not sure. Lazaro, do you know the version of Python where we can do like something like int? I believe it's like int I.
Yeah, it's called type hinting, and it's pretty much kind of like that. But you do it the other way. Like you do the parameter variable name, and then the column, and then the type. Like that, yeah.
Okay.
And you can do it with what the function should return as well. So after the closing parentheses, you do like an arrow, and then the type you want to return.
Yeah. So let's just say we want to return a string. But yeah, this is called type hinting. We can do it like this in order to prevent, make it more like Java, C++. Anyways, yeah. So we can go I and J. This is going to not be pretty, but oh well. Drank from the chalice, Jesus Hermes Daniela. That's someone's full name, Jesus Hermes Daniela. But yeah, we can also specify default values if nothing's passed into the parameter. Like in this case, if we don't pass an I into the parameter, let's just default it to Carla and Joshua. And then if we call this with defaulting values, we wouldn't necessarily need to call this like pass an I and J. It will still compile. It will just use the default values. So that's another reason why Python is kind of convenient. Anyways.
And so,
yeah.
So if you go back to the Colab, so can you tell me what happens if I add an extra letter? Like if I call in the drink, right? Well, actually, I have two questions. So one, if in the drink call, the function call at the bottom,
yeah,
if I put, for example, an overriding value, what will that do?
So if we put an overriding value, it'll overwrite the default value. Let's just say instead of Joshua, we put Maria in here. And instead of Maria, we put Daniel over here. Instead of Joshua, we put Daniel. It'll overwrite the value. That's what it does. So this is just defaulted if nothing specified, but when we call the function and we specify the parameter, it'll overwrite the default values. That's a good question, Hermes. Thanks for catching that. Yeah. Anyways, so that's default values and functions. Scope variables inside a function, local only inside that function. Yeah, so if we call a variable in one function and we try to use it in another, obviously that's not going to work because this variable's only it only belongs to that function. So if you create like a last name variable in greet and you try to use it in another function called by, it's not going to work. What you would have to do is create another variable name last name, and then set that to whatever. Or you can have a return type of greet, and instead of using last name, you can do greet, make the function called greet, and set that into a variable, and then pass that variable into the f string, and that would work. Let's get into classes. So how many of you guys are familiar with object-oriented programming and classes, objects and classes? I hear crickets.
Yeah, I know.
Are you guys scared of class?
Josh
got
it. You know, he knows. So Josh is the only one that knows. Nobody else.
Well, anyways, classes are basically a way to like encapsulate data types. So we can create like a class, and we can call it whatever. I'm going to create a class of myself. I'm going to construct myself. So a way to do this is, hold on, am I doing this right? Yeah. A way to do this is calling a class. You can name it whatever you want. And then we call something called a constructor. This constructor basically builds, it's what you call in order to, so when you call John in quotation marks, this constructor would be the method that's going to run first. Like you don't have to call this itself. And the constructor is denoted by the init underscore init underscore. And what we pass into here is self and any other parameters we want to pass into here. I'm just going to pass it in self. And what is self, you may ask? Self just basically lets us know that we're referring to a specific, like we're referring to the variables specific to the instance of the class we are creating. If you guys have better definition or explanation, please. I'm not good at explaining object-oriented programming.
I think it has to do with the with the script, right? Like it's something with scope.
Yeah, the self is the scope. Yeah. So like if you want to access like
because there's some instances where you don't need self, as far as I know. Like
yeah, when we're passing in stuff, like if we just want to call like a random function, then we don't have to pass in self. But in this case, like a function that computes like squares of a number, we wouldn't need self because we don't need to access any instance variables. And I'll show you what I mean by this. So let's create instance variables. What are instance variables? Instance variables are variables that are associated strongly with the class. So I'm creating myself, right? How do I look like? So I'm going to do gender. We can set gender, self.gender. We refer to itself. We're creating this new variable, self.gender, and we set it equal to male. I'm a male. Can we have a default constructor? What do you mean by default constructor? Like, do we have to call init every single time? Or like make init? Is that what you mean? With no, yeah, this is a default constructor. We have to have self in the constructor. Because it refers to whatever variables you're going to create for that class. If you don't need self in the constructor, chances are you don't need to make a class. So gender, how else? Sweater. My sweater is gray. And that's basically me. I'm a guy with a gray sweater. And then within this class, we can define methods within this class. So I'm going to go, I'm going to define a function called
red sweater.
Red sweater. Good idea. I said read. Red sweater. I can't spell. Red sweater.
The hoodies.
Red sweater. And what we can pass is self again. Because let's just say this red sweater, let's say I want to change my sweater. I want to change it from gray to red. So let's change it. All we have to do is access the sweater variable, self.sweater, and change it to red. And I'll show you guys what this looks like. So how do we use a class? Interesting question. So I'm going to create a variable called myself, John, and I'm going to create John class. Actually, is that how you do it? Yeah, we can create John class. All right, interesting. So now I created, sorry, shift enter, bad habit. I created myself. So now what we can do is access the variables. So I can go like John.gender, and we can see what what this object's gender variable is. We see that I'm a male. Let's do John.sweater. We see that it's gray. Now, let's say I want to call the red sweater function. What we do is just call the function from the instance variable I created, which is lowercase John, and then we denote it with .red sweater, and this will change the variable of John. So now if we copy and paste this again, we'll see, crap, bad habit. We'll see that it changes from gray to red. See, gray to red. Interesting.
And
it didn't work for you, Clement? Yeah, red sweater is a setter. Yeah, red sweater is a setter. What do you mean it didn't work?
No, he's saying in real life your sweater didn't change, so it didn't work.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you know.
Sorry.
Oh, that's
unfortunately
all different. Well, we'll have to make like machine computer vision that like changes how you're.
you asked an interesting question. Is there another way to change variables? In a class, you mean? In a class, Joshua? Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
No. You have to refer, or you don't really have to make a function to change a variable, but like within the class, actually kind of, within the class, you have to have some way of whether it's in a function or maybe you want to do it. I don't know why you would want to do it this way, but like maybe you would want to change the maybe actually this can be a way.
Like, can you put a parameter inside
Let's just say
the method? And
yeah, you can actually. You can
Yeah,
put
you
a
can
sweater
just-
parameter and gender parameter. And now we can make this more general. As a person, what defines a person? A sweater and their gender. It's the only thing. And we can change it this way. So now we can go self.sweater is equal to sweater. And self.gender is equal to gender. So now when we call this John, let's just say John, what sweater am I wearing? Green. What's my gender? I'm gonna be funny here. Please excuse me for my sense of humor, but my gender is a furry. But now we can test this out. We can test this out. Does this actually work? Let's see.
Well, you gotta change the John to person.
Oh, right. Thanks for catching that.
Exactly. It's important.
There we go. And that's how we can change it.
Yeah. And so you.
Yeah, that is one way.
Yeah, and John, all of this is cool, but what are some more practical ways I can use classes? Like, what should I? Do you have any examples?
Yes. So this is an AI dev community. Let's create the most basic AI we can think of. An if-else statement. The perfect AI. Let's create for example, let's create like a simple AI that determines. I'm saying AI
Hey, sorry.
very loosely here.
Can you undo and just go on to another block of code?
Sure.
Just for reference.
Sorry. Yeah.
Thank you.
So let's create another class. We'll call it AI. We're gonna call this AI. And let's call it init. Our constructor. We want to pass itself so it knows how to reference its variables. And for now, let's just keep the constructor general. We'll create a decision variable. And this is actually very practical because with frameworks like TensorFlow and PyTorch, we will have to create classes for neural networks and other graph implementations. But let's just set our decision variable to true. Right now, let's just create an AI that determines pass or fail. And our decision is pass. It's true if it's pass, and it's fail if it's otherwise. So yeah. So now we can create like another function we'll call pass or fail. I'm using camel case notation here. So please forgive me if you're unaware. Don't like it. And we'll pass a parameter and we'll pass like our grade, like a grade variable. And we can check the grade. If the grade is above a 69%, we set decision self.decision stays true, or it is true. This is like a decision to be made. Else then we set self.decision to false. This is the most basic example, but you can see how this can scale out to like more complex classes that you can use in general for AI. So for example, we can call this call an AI variable. We initialize it to AI, and then set AI dot grade. What's our grade right now? Right now, I have like let's just say I have a 69.9. Let's just say we're barely making it. This should print true. So we print AI dot decision, and that should print true for you guys. Oops. So yeah. So this is actually yeah. Sorry about that, guys. The function is actually called pass or fail. Sorry about that. Yeah. Yeah, so it's pass or fail, and then we pass in our grade variable, 69.9, and we barely made it. So it's true. Anyways, that's classes for you guys in Python in a nutshell.
Also, John.
Yes, I must continue.
So, two things. One, Spark Dev, we kind of have to give them time because, probably to show their project. Like I think 20 minutes would be good.
I went over, didn't I?
No, you're good. You're good. Like we're right on time. It's just like there's a lot to cover in Python, so I just want to give them plenty of time. But yeah, I mean, like if they're ready.
¿Qué vuelta, mi gente de zona? How are you guys doing?
Hola.
What's up, guys? Muy bien. Thank you for asking. What's up, guys? So my name's Danny. I'm the team lead for the SparkDev AI team. And I believe Francisco, who's my co-lead, is actually in here. Where you at, bro?
Yes.
I'm Francisco, and I'm the co-lead with Danny for the SparkDev AI team.
Yeah, Francisco's a boss. He's been a great co-lead this semester. So yeah, guys, I am here apparently to show you guys a little bit of what we've done for the project so far. And yeah, we are simping. That's we're Simp Nation over here. That's what we're for. We're gonna build the Simp AI. Let me see. Okay, here. I'm gonna send you guys the GitHub. Okay, please bear in mind that the GitHub right now is a total mess. Okay, it's unorganized as all hell. It works, but it's unorganized. So please ignore that. I'm gonna send you guys the GitHub link now. Let me see. All right. All right, I just put it in the hub chat for AI. Cool. So let me see. I'm gonna give you guys a brief rundown of essentially what we managed here. So basically, what we managed to do with our project was, thank you, Azir Ali, appreciate it. Basically, what we done with the project is we created a sentiment analyzer / classifier. Okay. Basically, what it does is in our case, we found that Amazon actually has a lot of really well organized Amazon reviews, like in gigantic JSON files, right? So we got a 1.6 gigabytes, Francisco? The full 2 million?
Yeah, I think so. Like 1.68.
Yeah, it's 2 million video game reviews from Amazon, right? So that's a lot. And basically what we've managed to do is create we've created a process where we get those 2 million reviews. Yeah, it's a lot. We got those 2 million reviews. We do this really important step in data science and machine learning called data pre-processing, which is essentially it's like part cleaning the data, meaning it's like properly formatted for us to use, and removing any unnecessary stuff that we don't want. So for example, when you care about if somebody likes a video game or not in an Amazon review, you don't care about them saying but we then etc. Right? Those are kind of useless words for sentiment, and in our case they're called stop words. There's a specific grammatical term for them. I forgot what it was. Do you remember, Francisco? I totally forgot.
For the stop words, no idea.
No, whatever. There was some cool grammatical term for it. I forgot. Conjunction? I think it was. Thank you. I appreciate it. I appreciate
English
you.
isn't my strong suit.
Conjunctions. Me neither, Papa. Oh man, thank God we're not English majors. So sorry for anybody who is. So basically, we removed all those, and we got all those pre-processed reviews. And here, let me try to do this step by step. I would try that screen share, but unfortunately, well, here, it's fine. You guys don't need to see my face. I'll be right back. Because my PC doesn't have a camera, so you guys are just have to.
Wait for him.
Yeah, he has to rejoin, I think.
Anyway, guys.
Oh.
How are you guys doing? You guys?
Hello. All right.
Chill? All right, there you go.
I want school to be over. 3 weeks. I'm counting it down. I'm counting on each and every single day until.
Me too. It says host disabled screen sharing.
Yeah. I'm adding you. I lost you. Oh, there it is. Yeah, I got you. Yeah. Try now.
Let me see. Perfect. All right. Can you guys see?
Yep.
All right. Cool. Where was it? I'm really hoping you guys aren't recording any really private information. I really appreciate it if you didn't. Let me see. I don't need more people than my FBI agent knowing everything I'm up to. So let's see. God, we made like 3 main files, didn't we? Which one was the most recent one? I think it's this one, right?
Yeah, so that file.
Yeah, I believe this is one, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
I think this one and vectorization. Okay, perfect. So, okay, just to give you guys a quick run through. Basically, we used a couple of tools, namely Well, ironically, thinking back to it, we should have probably used Jupyter Notebooks. Would have made our lives way easier. We instead opted for VS Code because VS Code is closer to like a normal IDE that more people are used to. So in our case, it was a little bit more beginner friendly because everybody in our team already had a bit of coding experience. So I didn't want to make it too crazy. But yeah, in this case, we used VS Code as our IDE, and we used this specific package called Stanza, which is a wrapper for a bigger library called Stanford Core NLP. And basically, some geeky guys at Stanford decided to make a machine learning and sentiment analyzing package. And so we imported that to help us out here. So basically, we have in this whole file, main.py, we got a lot of the tasks that our team members had for pre-processing, such as removing stop words, removing punctuation, removing numbers, etc. And this all gets processed through here. And another very important, and we have 2 other important ones. We have Spacey and Pandas. Pandas is basically your best friend for. Actually, I'll leave that to Francisco. Francisco's the expert on Pandas.
So with Pandas, with all of this, we were using like a JSON and a CSV file, and Pandas is like a package, so like a library, and it lets you handle like data in these things called data frames, which is just like it sounds, a data frame. And through that, you can like manipulate, like imagine it's like an Excel with like columns and rows, but you can manipulate that all in like Python with a bunch of different like functions, things like that.
It basically makes the data really easy to manipulate in different ways because the library already has a lot of functions that help you manipulate data that is like neatly formatted in the way ours is. Pandas in general is really good for machine learning. Cool, because you're usually dealing with a shit ton of data. So let me see. Oh, am I lit a curse? My bad. Let's see.
You're good.
Cool. All right, and here we have the vectorization file. So this file is extremely important, right? Okay. So part of the process of creating the sentiment analyzer is first getting a ton of data, which Amazon provided us very easily. Next is pre-processing that data. In other words, preparing it for our model. Thirdly is this, pretty much what this file does. What this file does is it turns all those strings into vectors. Essentially, you can think of it like every review gets processed into a numerical value, right, through vectors. And with each of those vectors, we basically, so for example, let me see. In this definition, we have a bigram TF IDF. This right here. Remember this. This is awesome. Bigram TF IDF is in our case, it's what provided the most accurate. It's what gave us high accuracy on our model. So I'll talk about that later.
I have a question for you.
Yeah,
Daniel.
go ahead.
So David asks if you guys are using one-hot encoding or word embedding. Is TF-IDF, is that an alternative to one-hot encoding?
Okay. TF-IDF, all it is, it's actually a simple, it's pretty much a simple formula that converts words into vectors plainly. So I haven't really heard of the other things he's mentioning, but basically, if the other things that David's mentioning are things that turn words into a numerical value for like representation, then you're gonna say something, John?
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, that's what one-hot encoding is. And feel free to like jump in, David. This is conversational based.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure what you're doing there is like a form of word embedding. So you kind of answered my question right after I asked it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Then yeah, pretty much. It is. You could say it's word embedding. In this case, basically, TF-IDF is a common technique for defining how important words are, right? So it's term frequency multiplied by inverse document frequency. In other words, it counts how many times words are said in sentences, for example, and it gets the most used words, right? And it's like, okay, these are important, but it offsets that using document frequency. So it's like, oh, wait a minute, these words are used a lot in documents, then they must not be that important. So for example, stop words would be really weird in this case, right? Because they're used so often, right? You don't want that. You only want important words that actually matter for sentiment, which is why stop word remove, for example, is so essential. These are all just functions from, these are essentially, in this case, vectorization. This whole function essentially just uses a lot of scikit.learn, scipy, and stanza. Stanza? No, in this case, just scikit-learn. Oh, so I should probably go over scikit-learn. You guys, does anybody know what scikit-learn is? Anybody? I'm gonna wait until somebody chimes in with a yes or a no. All right, guys, we're gonna sit in silence for like the next 10 minutes.
I'm not sure what scikit.
Oh, thank you. Okay,
Well,
since you don't know what it is, I got you. Basically, scikit-learn is one of the most, okay, I'm just gonna flat out say it, one of the most popular and probably best libraries for machine learning, period. I said it. It's very, muy importante.
That is
muy
false,
importante.
Yes. cuML, if you have CUDA drivers or NVIDIA GPUs, cuML is better than scikit-learn. It's basically the same definitions, but sorry,
John,
are
you trying to start a fight here? No, I'm messing. Yeah, he's right. Especially if you have NVIDIA drivers, 100%. So yeah, this is all this stuff. Yeah, so essentially all this whole file, what it does is gets those TF-IDF values, sends it to scikit-learn. Scikit-learn essentially returns to us with an object. Where was it? It essentially returns us an object, and we can get multiple things from that object, including, oh, I see the chat is blowing up right now. Hold up. Shameless plug. Okay, cool. Yeah, so essentially we get an object back from scikit-learn, and that gives us all the information we want, and we're finishing up the project now. So we're finishing up the front end to show off a lot of this stuff, and yeah. And so you guys have any questions?
It's really,
Oh, thanks for joining us, Danielle. I appreciate you.
Do you guys think you can demo how it works?
Let me see. We have I believe we have does their video already have the demo of that, Francisco?
Just of the website, but I mean, if you want to see like the actual. So let me
see.
I can show it, like, I guess.
All right, I'll leave that to Francisco.
So just give me a sec to open up VS Code.
I would do it through my computer normally, but like, unfortunately, because this isn't as organized as I'd like it to be, I probably don't have the files updated and all that jazz.
Okay. When you want to start sharing?
Yeah. Let me see.
Hey, why isn't this thing? Give me a second for
yeah.
Okay.
I don't know if you guys said this, but is this project for like a competition or something, or what?
Right. So this is for SparkDev. And SparkDev is one of the clubs in UPE. If you know what UPE is, basically it's one of the it's a UPE is a student club for people at FIU. Specifically for like making it's for basically computer science related stuff. SparkDev is like, you could say, like a sub club. It's a program of UPE, and it's concerned with making projects over a semester in different areas such as mobile development, game development, in our case AI. Yeah. So for example, I already participated in it in its last semester, in the last spring semester, and we tried jumping into AI straight into deep learning. And if you guys know anything about deep learning, it's really hard, and it's a really bad idea to start AI with deep learning. So I tried making it a little bit easier this semester with machine learning, and I think it ended up fine. So yeah, go ahead, Francisco, you ready?
Yeah, I mean, this is running. So
perfect.
Yes, so right now, what I'm about to run is, we have our like model, right? That we did, like calculating the, like Danny said, the TF-IDF value with all the clean data. I mean, I won't, so let me see. In this main.py file, right? If I run this, it'll take a couple of minutes because we pretty much here have like a set of functions that is editing the file we have and removing things and cleaning the data. I can't demo that because, again, my Zoom is already being laggy, I can tell. But because all the memory and things that this takes up. So you see here, like, that's like Danny said, like that's a huge part of what we're doing. You have to like clean and prepare all your data.
Yeah, that can, and like, especially if you go into deep learning, it goes, so machine learning functions could take like minutes and maybe like hours at the most. In deep learning, you can end up days running a program trying to get your whatever it is to learn.
That's why you need
GPU. How big is your data set?
2 million, well, around 2 million video game reviews from Amazon.
Yeah, our training data set is the one that we use right now to train stuff. That's the second one. We used 1 million reviews, and I think it got the file down to like 300 megabytes from like probably like 1 gigabyte, which is pretty cool. And now this is taking its time. But
did you guys not like think of chunking it?
We did chunk it.
Yeah, so I mean, right here, what I'm running, I'm not actually doing like anything. Like I'm not gonna do the actual model because another team member did that, and like he had the, like, power for it, and yeah, it worked on his end. So what I'm doing here is I'm getting our file, which is like a numpy array, which has all our values and like our trained model, which is this file right here. And like all this before is like making that file, and I'm like using that file to train and like show those scores that we get pulled from our data frame, which is dfog, and then it's like taking a random value and then like testing, like applying our TF-IDF and then validating that. So in our thing we have like the review text, and we also have, you know, on Amazon you rate like from 1 through 5.
And basically we use that for cross validation to determine how accurate our results actually are,
Yeah,
and it
so
helps improve our model's accuracy.
so right now I ran it, and like look, we got a like the whole thing overall has a training and validation score of 84%, which is pretty good.
Pretty good, bro. We worked so
And
hard for that.
yeah,
Pretty damn good, I would say. Fuck
and
yeah.
like right now it pulled, like, to just show it, we have it that it's putting like a random review within like the first like 100,000,
Mhm.
and then predicting it, and then we can like validate it. I guess like we could put eventually that it prints the score. But see, you read here, like, this would have been one of the better computer role-playing games of recent years if it weren't so buggy. Many of the problems can be fixed downloading the most recent patch. And it goes, the storyline is engrossing. I don't know what that word means.
It means it's really good, basically.
Oh.
But basically, as you guys can tell, the overall the review is like not really that happy, right? It's like this thing could have been a masterpiece, but it wasn't. Right? Okay. So using scikit-learn, we get back a value either 0 or 1 for sentiment, and in this and it uses RTF IDF to determine if the sentiment is positive, meaning 1, or negative 0. In this case, sentiment score is 0, and it makes sense this review isn't exactly thrilled.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I have a I have a question for you guys. So for those who do not know machine learning that well, you mentioned an accuracy score of 84%. Like, can you actually first discuss other validation metrics, and like, is there other validation metrics other than accuracy that we can use to validate the data? And my second question would be, maybe we can discuss possible errors in the validation, like in like machine learning, because like what you guys, when we like basically when we were like debugging this, it was 86%, but there was like an overwhelming like thing that we had to address.
So okay, there was like I think like 5 questions. I'm gonna try condensing it to like 2 or 3 to answer everything.
It's 2 questions.
It's 2 questions. Yeah, my bad. So basically, I'm gonna start with the second one, which I believe was can you repeat the second question actually?
It was like, there was a problem that we had with accuracy
Right.
score.
What's the problem?
That, like, it was,
right. So
yeah. So a thing like machine learning is that you could get a 99% score, but that score could be totally false.
It
Like,
depends on the data itself, and if you're depending on how it's fitted, right? So if your data is slightly biased, for example, and let's say in general you're going to have way more positive reviews than negative reviews, right? That bias is going to impact your model, right? It's not going to be as accurate as it objectively should be, right? Right. So that was that. And for the first question, the validity of your model scikit-learn does have that nice feature of telling you your validation score, and obviously you can have your own ways of doing it, but a lot of what goes into that isn't just like the code that you put in. For example, there's this really important thing called hyperparameter tuning, right? And hyperparameters are essentially you could say that they're basically parameters that are not learned by the model, right? So basically you could think of them as like these, like you can think of them like knobs in your model that you tweak that isn't learned by the machine learning model itself, right? So these knobs are extremely important because it's basically how you can offset certain biases. In this case, like there being way too many positive reviews, like objectively.
Yeah, that was, so like what John referenced to, that was like the problem we had, that pulling like from that, like the reviews, for some reason, the majority of them were positive reviews, because how we chose to like represent these, we chose, which this wasn't necessary later, like we took this part out, but what this basically does, it classifies, okay, from the overall value, any score less than or equal to 2 is a negative score, and greater than or equal to 3 is like positive. So that's like how we would test, like a 0 or 1, a positive or negative. And that was the issue that we faced. Like a vast majority of our data was like all positive. So in training and testing this, like the model was biased like to positive reviews, and it was like getting things wrong because of like that data. And,
So yeah, you guys have any other questions? Oh, and real quick, we did technically like we did technically avoid a really important step in machine learning period, which is, well, in the case of sentiment analysis, we technically skipped the step of like actually web scraping and using web scrapes and web spiders, because in general, like if you're, for example, if you're working at a company and they don't already have, and they want something and they don't already have data for it, a way of getting it online would be through web scraping, right? So let's say they want to know how well the sentiment is on their Instagram posts, right? You're gonna have to learn to create a basic Python, and there's a lot of libraries for this stuff, right? A basic Python web scraper, and basically what web scraper is it gets text, for example, from a post on Instagram, and like from online, and it puts it in like whatever format you want, so CSV, etc. And that's the beginning of collecting data online, for example. And we basically skipped that because Amazon already has so many nice reviews for us.
That's always better.
Yeah, exactly. Of course.
Yeah,
let's work for me. But yeah, web scraping is super, super important.
That beautiful soup is pretty nice. I used it for like a project in the summer.
Yeah, it's like the main one for web scraping. Okay.
Yeah, so there you go.
Awesome. Well, I'd like to give a hand. Let me see. I got my reaction emoji.
I give the physical hand.
Yeah, this is so sick.
Yeah, I mean, thank you guys so much for joining us, Spark Dev team. Like, it's very, very impressive what you guys are doing, and actually, I hope that when you guys have a bit more, like, once you get the front end working, we'd love to see, like, also if you'd like to give updates with, like, in our dev community meetings, we'd love to hear it. I'm sure that everyone else found it just as cool, right?
I hear crickets. It's nice.
No.
Not messing, guys. Yeah, we appreciate it. Thank you so much for having us. Honestly, we're really glad that we were able to come here and like show you guys like how cool AI can be. I mean, like, and like I said, like this can go so many different ways. This is just, we decided to do the Amazon review thing because we wanted to learn as much as we could this semester as well. Like, I think the thing I'm proudest of, honestly, is that literally me, I think I was the only one who had any machine learning experience at all before this semester, and I managed to get everybody on the team to learn a lot in this semester. And I think that's what I'm proudest of, honestly.
Yeah.
So yeah,
you guys have a nice project, honestly.
Really nice, yeah. And the code is very clean and everything. Yeah. I love it. Love it.
We try.
It's awesome.
But yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Oh wait. Actually, I did have like a question, kind of. So you guys generated scores like either like 0 for bad or 1 for good, right? Is there any way to like tell, or like, because sometimes a review could be like both kind of good and baddish, or it could be like in the middle.
You mean why couldn't we get exact sentiment answers like 0.7, like it was mostly good but not perfect?
Something like that.
Right. Okay. So that was actually the original goal. Believe it or not, that's actually exactly what we wanted to do at the beginning. But then we realized that scikit-learn is like scikit-learn. So after you pass the TF-IDF vectors to scikit-learn, it returns an object that lets you get different things from, right? So in this case, that object only ended up giving us 0 or 1 for positive or negative, right? So to answer your question, basically, yes, it's 100% possible. It's just that part is much harder than it seems. And scikit-learn maybe it's capable of doing it, but as far as like the way we were using it, it didn't really have that function. So basically, answer your question, it's totally possible. But if we wanted to do it, we'd probably have to custom build it.
Yeah.
So it's okay, cool. I was just curious about that. I wasn't sure if that's.
Yeah, but yeah, there you go. And by the way,
said
like we did like
custom
the bare minimum of what you could do for sentiment analysis, right? Like this can go way deeper, right? So for example, you could get like, you could create, for example, literal summaries word for word of, so for example, you could get like a 500 word review and condense it down to like a sentence, like the exact words that would describe the whole review.
Whoa,
that's really cool.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And but the thing is, like I said, because I was the only one with experience, like at all, that would have been definitely outside the scope of what I thought would be possible for an AI in a semester. Because AI honestly is really hard to understand and grasp like properly unless you have enough mathematical background, interest, and coding experience. Like it can be pretty intense. But honestly, it's one of the coolest things I've ever learned about. So it's worth it.
Agreed. Awesome. Yeah, I guess we'll wrap up the meeting, but honestly, I wish we even had more time because I could talk about it all day. Special thanks to John. He led the meeting today, with Python and so on. So and he did great. And thank you all for coming. I mean, I know this is it's a Monday. We all hate Mondays. Tell me about it. I was falling asleep earlier doing math in my chair. And but I hope this is something that I can add to your week. Open the week up, something to look forward to. Not that hated Monday. And we'd also love if you guys have any projects. I know David was doing a Kaggle competition. He shared that in the hub. That was super cool to see. Like this, it helps the entire community, and you might think, like John, he has plenty of experience, why should he care about my little project? Well, it's not a little project at all. And it even helps us. Like we enjoy machine learning and enjoy, helping.
Oh, and real quick, I just gotta say this real quick. I know you want to say something, John, but I'm gonna interject. Thank you so much, John, for helping us out over the weekend. Like he was super instrumental in like helping us do our final push through the hackathon. Honestly, provided so much to the team. Thank you so much. Want to say it again? I'll say this is like the 10th time I've said it, but I'll say it 20 more times. Thank you.
No, man, no problem. To be honest, also shout out to Jose. He's also part of our BSC club. He also helped. He helped you guys today. With the front end.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's funny. Me and Jose already worked on a Flask project for the Google or for the shell hacks. So definitely, he's really good at that actually. So if you guys ever want to have a Flask, you know who to hit up. It's Jose Hernandez.
It is Jose. Jose is the beast. Another thing I wanted to mention for those of you guys who are still here, next week we are not having a meeting as it's Thanksgiving break. We have our last meeting on the first week of December, and we're going to take a huge step back. Like we went over Python, we saw 2 really cool NLP projects already. Let's take a huge step back and let's get the broader grasp of what machine learning is. Our last meeting's going to be more so an introduction to machine learning. This is one that you should not miss. We'll go over what regression is, what classification is, so you guys can be as big brained as David, Daniel, and Francisco, and
and neural networks. Those are always my favorite, actually. But
neural networks,
because what we're also trying to do is prime you guys, because we're expecting in this upcoming semester when we keep doing dev communities, obviously, we have some really good ideas and maybe some we can't spoil it, but maybe some intertwining with another dev community. Can't say. I don't know. We'll see. We'll have to see. But yeah, anything else, John, Azar? Anything? Oh, and Sabrina, yes.
Yeah, say something, Sabrina.
Hey guys, this is a really cool meeting. But this is to all our members. We have a LinkedIn page now, so if you guys could all follow it and like engage with the page, that would be super awesome. So yeah, follow our LinkedIn. I'm gonna put the link right now in the chat. So
And post your LinkedIn's and professionals so we can connect.
Yes, yes.
I will.
Connect, grow our network, get the references.
I'll post mine too, but nobody roast me because my LinkedIn is low key super outdated.
No.
Anything is welcome.
No,
So
we know who you are, Daniel.
But we can post them on the professional channel of
Yeah,
Discord.
professional.
Yeah. Or just the home channel works too. But it's nice to have it like consolidated in case somebody else comes across it. But yeah, so anything else?
No.
Great.
Well, what date? Let me give you the date for our last meeting. It is on December 7th, right, Azar?
I believe December 7th. I think it'll be like earlier than that. December 7th, I think, is like the week of finals.
November 30th is November 30th, our last meeting.
That's the week after Thanksgiving. Yeah.
Yeah. So November 30th is our last meeting. You guys don't want to miss it. And yeah, we're going to prepare for solution challenges. FIUs, we're going to be known as the AI. We're going to beat UCF as Florida's AI school. Let's aim for that.
UCF is Florida's AI school. I thought it was UF.
Yeah, it's kind of.
UCF has a really good AI program.
Yeah, but UF has higher rankings.
For undergrads, they're They have an AI club at UCF that's making strides.
Ooh, okay. We know who our target is then. Perfect.
Yeah, collaborative. Yeah, no.
Collaborative. Yes. Yeah, right.
Awesome, guys. Thank you all for joining again, and don't be shy. If you have any questions, you can go to the AI Hub or message any of us. And yeah, awesome. So I'll be ending the meeting, but see you guys later.
Thanks, everyone.
See you guys later. Have a good night, everybody.
Bye.
Good night.